This is a fictional story created purely for entertainment, but it could be the last night of someone you know. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from, because not every race is about money. Some begin when someone tries to escape their own past, and end where the road forces them to stop. The old road seemed narrower than Miguel remembered. The faded lanes, the cracked asphalt, the broken posts. Everything there carried the weight of something that hadn't been fixed. Just like him, he slowed down almost instinctively. The engine complained softly, as if it were surprised by that decision. For years, slowing down had never been an option. Braking meant losing, and losing, for Miguel, was always worse than falling. The memories came without warning, like headlights appearing on a sharp curve. Miguel remembered the sound exactly. Not the impact, but the second before it. The instant when everything could still have been avoided. The speedometer was showing more speed than it should. His breathing was erratic. And beside him, Daniel smiled. "Just a little more," Daniel said. "You always say that," Miguel replied, laughing. That's how it started. A banal phrase, a small bet, an empty road. After that, nothing was small anymore. That night smelled of gasoline and adrenaline. Money didn't matter as much as respect. The respect of the streets, of glances, of messages exploding on the cell phone after each victory. Miguel always accelerated. Daniel trusted him. Until the curve. Now, 2 years later, Miguel was passing exactly that curve. The lamppost was still crooked. Someone had painted a new yellow line, but the asphalt carried marks that wouldn't come off with paint. He stopped the car. A heavy silence fell. Only the ticking of the engine cooling down and the wind passing through the trees. Miguel got out, his feet touching the ground as if he were stepping into forbidden territory. "There," Daniel had said, "trust me." Miguel closed his eyes. He remembered seeing the headlights coming too fast, the interrupted scream, the steering wheel locking in his sweaty hands. He remembered the motionless body, the shattered glass, the blood mixed with the rain. He remembered fleeing. No one ever knew who was driving. The money disappeared. The bets were erased. And Miguel carried alone the only proof, his memory. Now, standing at that point, he realized something he had never admitted. It hadn't been the accident that destroyed him. It had been the choice to leave. His cell phone vibrated again. This time, it wasn't a voice from the past. It was a clear message. "They know you're back. The race starts in 20 minutes. Miguel looked at the car, then at the road ahead. The same decision as always. Accelerate and survive another night. Or stop and face what he had been trying to bury. He got into the car, started the engine. But for the first time, he didn't floor it. The real race wouldn't be against other cars. It would be against the man he had been since that turn. The meeting point was nowhere to be found. No exact coordinates, no address. Just a photo sent seconds after the message. An abandoned overpass, peeling graffiti, makeshift lights hanging from crooked wires. Miguel knew that place. Not from map, but by instinct. It was there that the dirtiest races took place. No rules, no audience, no second chances. He drove in silence, the radio off. Each kilometer felt like a test. The closer he got, the more he felt the old impulse trying to take control. His body craved speed. His mind craved oblivion. But something held him back. When he arrived, the scene was familiar and strange at the same time. Cars lined up like trapped beasts, engines purring low, headlights flashing in silent codes. Faces hidden by hoods. No one wanted to be remembered there. Miguel parked and turned off the engine. A few glances turned. Murmurs arose. "It's him," someone said. On the other side of the overpass, a tall man approached. Lucas, the organizer. Easy smile, empty eyes. He was the one who turned escapes into spectacles. "I thought you'd learned," said Lucas, opening his arms. "I've learned too much," replied Miguel. Lucas laughed. "So you know there's no way out. Whoever enters runs. Whoever runs pays." Miguel looked around. He recognized some cars. He recognized the tension in the air. He recognized the lie everyone there told themselves, that they were in control. "This race wasn't part of the deal," said Miguel. "Nothing here is," replied Lucas. But the prize doubled. An envelope was thrown onto the hood. Inside, too much money. And something worse, an old photo. He and Daniel, smiling before the final race. Miguel felt his stomach churn. "Do you think this will bring me back?" he asked. "I think it will make you race," Lucas replied. The makeshift signal lit up. Engines roared. The road ahead disappeared into sharp curves and darkness. "Me?" Miguel got into the car. He adjusted the seat. He looked at his hands. The same hands that hadn't braked 2 years ago. The traffic light turned green. Everyone accelerated. Miguel hesitated for a second, and then followed. But something was different. He wasn't racing to win. He was racing to finish something he'd never dared to face. And on that off-the-map road, Miguel knew, that race would demand much more than money. The roar of the engines spread across the overpass like a contained thunderclap. As soon as the makeshift signal went out, the cars sped off, tearing through the night in streaks of light and smoke. Miguel felt his body respond automatically. Foot on the accelerator, hands firm, gaze fixed on the invisible path ahead. The narrow road snaked between abandoned warehouses and vacant lots. There was no protection, no margin for error. Each curve seemed tighter than the last, as if the road were being designed to test whoever dared to cross it. Miguel kept his distance at first. He observed. He listened to the other drivers' excited voices on the radio, mixed with nervous laughter and taunts. For them, it was still a game. For him, it wasn't. On a short straight, one of the cars tried to overtake him on the inside. Miguel instinctively swerved, feeling the rear tires slip for an eternity. His heart raced. The past knocked too hard on the door. "Not again," he murmured. He took a deep breath and regained control. For the first time, he didn't accelerate to compensate for the scare. He maintained his pace. Consciously, each decision seemed to weigh a ton. A few meters ahead, a blind corner appeared without warning. One of the cars in front entered too fast. The sound of the impact was sharp, followed by sparks and screams on the radio. The car spun, hit the guardrail, and ended up sideways. The others didn't stop. Miguel braked. The world seemed to slow down. The smell of burnt rubber, the twisted metal, the headlight flickering erratically. Inside the wrecked car, a figure moved, confused. For a moment, Miguel saw Daniel there. Same pale face. Same heavy silence after the mistake. The radio exploded with Lucas's voice. "What are you doing? Keep going." Miguel ignored him. He got out of the car and ran to the other vehicle. The driver was conscious, injured but alive. Miguel helped unlock the door, pulled the man out seconds before another car grazed by, almost hitting them both. When the distant sirens began to appear on the horizon, Miguel already knew that decision changed everything. He got back into the car, started the engine, and drove off course. Not to escape, but to end, once and for all, the race that had been raging inside him for years. Miguel sped through streets he didn't recognize, not because they were new, but because he'd always passed through them too quickly to truly see them. Now, every broken lamppost, every crooked sign, seemed to observe his decision. Lights appeared in his rearview mirror. Not sirens yet. Headlights. 2 cars followed him closely, aggressive, glued like predators. Lucas didn't tolerate desertions. Miguel felt the weight of the choice pressing against his chest. He knew how it ended when someone broke the invisible rules of underground racing. There were no official punishments. Miguel turned sharply to the right, entering an industrial neighborhood that was almost dead at that hour. Closed warehouses, streets too wide, too silent. The kind of place where nobody asked questions, and where mistakes were costly. The 2 cars behind didn't slow down. He recognized one of them by its aggressive, erratic roar. It was Cesar, one of the oldest drivers, known not for his skill, but for his lack of limits. The other was unknown, but equally determined not to let him leave that night unscathed. Miguel maintained a controlled speed. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. Every broken traffic light, every dark corner, every narrow entrance became an option. He didn't need to win. He needed to resist. The radio crackled again. "You crossed the line," said Lucas's voice, cold now. "And here, whoever crosses the line pays." Miguel turned off the radio. The sound of his own heart seemed louder than the engine. He entered a dead-end street, short, poorly lit, and at the last second, pulled the handbrake, turning the car and escaping through an almost invisible side access between two buildings. The first pursuer went straight past. The second almost made it, but scraped a bumper against the wall, sending sparks flying. Miguel didn't celebrate. He knew that was only the beginning. Further ahead, finally sirens. Real ones this time. Blue and red lights cutting through the night. One of the pursuing cars slowed down. The other disappeared around a bend. Miguel slowed down. He pulled over. When the police officer approached, Miguel kept his hands visible, the engine off, his body too tired for any pretense. Documents, the officer asked. Miguel handed them over. He took a deep breath. For the first time since the accident, he didn't try to explain to lie. He tried to escape. He just waited. While the police officer checked the data, Miguel looked at the steering wheel. He thought about how many times those same hands had chosen to accelerate when they should have stopped. The sirens slowly faded. The officer returned. "You were speeding," he said. "I was running away," Miguel corrected. "From whom?" Miguel hesitated. "From me." The officer stared at him for a few seconds, trying to decide if it was provocation or truth. In the end, he just sighed. "Today didn't end in tragedy," he said. "Don't waste it." Miguel nodded. When he started driving again, the road seemed different. No longer an escape route, but a path that demanded attention, responsibility, and courage. He knew Lucas wouldn't forget. The races wouldn't end there. But something had changed forever. That night wouldn't have a finish line, but would have consequences. Miguel didn't sleep that night. Whenever he closed his eyes, he saw the car spinning around the curve, heard the metal screaming, felt the silence that followed. The policeman's warning echoed like a sentence. Don't waste this. But Miguel knew it didn't depend only on him. When you enter a game like that, getting out is never simple. His cell phone rang shortly after dawn. The message had no number, no name, just a location and a short phrase. "It's time to settle your debt." Miguel stared at the screen for a few seconds before locking his phone. He knew exactly what that meant. Lucas didn't threaten twice. He didn't need to. The entire system thrived on the silent fear of those who had already crossed the line. He spent the day wandering around the city like a ghost. Every engine noise made him turn his head away. Every headlight reflected in shop windows seemed to haunt him. For the first time, it wasn't the police that worried him. It was the people who never appeared in the official records. As night fell, Miguel went to the indicated location, an old underground parking garage beneath an abandoned commercial building. The narrow entrance slowly swallowed the car, as if the city wanted to hide it. Down there, Lucas awaited him. He wasn't alone. 2 security guards leaned against a black car, arms crossed, expressions blank. Lucas seemed too calm. He always had. That's how he maintained control. "You got sentimental," Lucas said, without offering a greeting. "Someone needed to stop," Miguel replied. Lucas laughed. "Stopping is a luxury no one here has." Miguel took a deep breath. "I saved a life yesterday and put all the others at risk," Lucas retorted. "You broke the pact." Lucas walked slowly around Miguel, like a predator assessing prey that was no longer running. "You think this will eventually get rid of you?" he continued. "The races aren't just about speed. They're about money, favors, protection. You messed with all of that." Miguel held Lucas's gaze. "Then finish me off." A heavy silence fell. For a moment, Miguel thought Lucas would have him finished right there. But Lucas only smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "No," he said, "it'll be worse. You'll run one more time." Miguel felt his stomach sink. One final race. No audience. No open bets. Lucas approached. "If you win, you disappear. If you lose..." He didn't finish the sentence. Miguel understood. This wasn't a race to win money. It was an execution disguised as a choice. Lucas stepped back and threw a key on the ground. "Tomorrow night, the old road, the same curve." "You're sick," Miguel said. "No, I am the system." Miguel picked up the key. As he left the parking lot, he felt something new. It wasn't fear. It was clarity. He knew that this race wasn't about finishing first. It was the last trap, and also the last chance to break everything. Miguel spent the whole day with the feeling of saying goodbye. Miguel spent the whole day with the feeling of saying goodbye to something that didn't yet have a name. He wandered through the city aimlessly, observing hurried faces, illuminated shop windows, lives that went on without knowing what was about to happen on that forgotten road. The car had been parked in the garage since dawn. For the first time, Miguel opened the hood not to improve performance, but to check the basics. Brakes, suspension, tires, no extreme adjustments, no tricks. That race wouldn't be won by brute speed. While he worked, he remembered Daniel sitting right there, years ago, mocking his caution. Relax, he'd say. The road always gives way. Lies. The road never gives way. What gives way is the body. Miguel closed the hood and sat on the floor, leaning against the cold garage wall. He felt the weariness finally overtake him. Not the physical kind, the other, deeper kind, accumulated from sleepless nights and decisions postponed. He picked up his cell phone and opened old photos. Races, victories, 4 smiles. He stopped at one specific image, him and Daniel embracing before the last start. He deleted all the others. That one stayed. If that was truly his last race, he wanted to remember the beginning, not the mistake. As night fell, Miguel drove slowly, without music, without haste. Each red light seemed like a warning. Each empty street, an unanswered question. He knew Lucas would be waiting. He knew that this race wasn't about winning or losing. It was about control. He arrived at the old road before the agreed time. The place was too silent. No audience, no shouts, just the wind cutting through the trees and the uneven asphalt fading into the darkness. Miguel turned off the engine and stood there, still, looking at the curve ahead. The same curve that never truly let him go. This time, he didn't want to conquer the past. He wanted to confront it. When the headlights appeared in the distance, Miguel took a deep breath. He didn't feel fear. He felt responsibility. Something rare for someone who had spent his entire life speeding to avoid thinking. He started the car, not to race, but to finally decide how that story would end. The headlights approached in calculated silence. 2 cars stopped a few meters from Miguel. Lucas got out first, hands in his pockets, his expression too calm for someone about to witness an execution. On time, he said. Miguel didn't answer. The road was empty as promised. No bets, no onlookers, no cameras. Just the trees forming a dark tunnel and the curve ahead, motionless, waiting. Lucas made a simple gesture with his hand. One of the cars aligned with Miguel's. Loud, aggressive engine. The driver didn't show his face. Same rules as always, Lucas said. No police. No tricks. Only the road decides. Miguel nodded slowly. He adjusted his seatbelt. He placed his hands on the steering wheel. He felt the car vibrate, eager to do what it had always done best. Lucas raised his arm. Miguel looked at the curve, and in that instant he decided. When his arm fell, the other car sped off violently, tires screeching, engine screaming. The sound echoed down the road like an ancient invitation. Miguel didn't accelerate. Lucas frowned. The car beside him disappeared ahead in seconds, swallowed by the darkness. Miguel kept his car, stopped for another moment, long enough to break the logic of that night. Then he turned on his hazard lights. He engaged first gear. He moved forward slowly. On the radio, Lucas's voice exploded. What are you doing? Run. Miguel took a deep breath and replied calmly. No. He accelerated just enough to get onto the road. No hurry. No struggle. Each meter traveled was a gesture of refusal. Refusal of fear. Refusal of the system. Refusal to repeat the same story. Further ahead, he heard the sound. The impact. Metal against metal. The car that had sped off too fast couldn't make the turn. The silence that followed was absolute. Miguel stopped the car. He got out. He walked carefully to the accident site. The car was destroyed, but the driver was breathing. Miguel helped open the door, pulled the man out, and moved him away from the asphalt. In the distance, sirens began to blare. Someone had called. Perhaps fate had learned to interfere. Lucas arrived a few seconds later. He looked at the scene. The destroyed car. The driver alive. Miguel standing there, unharmed. You ruined everything, Lucas said, his voice empty. No, Miguel replied. I finished. The sirens drew closer. Lucas took a step back, then another. There was no race to escape this time. Miguel remained. For the first time, he didn't accelerate when everything told him to run. And in that forgotten stretch of road, he won the only race that truly mattered. The sirens cut through the early morning like blades of reality. Miguel remained motionless by the roadside, empty hands, a strangely light heart. For the first time in many years, there was no engine roaring inside him. Lucas watched everything from a distance. The glint of control in his eyes had vanished. Only the cold calculation of someone who realizes too late that he has lost control of the game remained. "You think you won?" he murmured, approaching. Miguel didn't turn around. "No, I stopped losing." The police arrived quickly. Questions, flashlights, notes. The injured driver was taken away conscious. No deaths, no bloodshed to sustain the legends Lucas had nurtured for years. When one of the officers approached Lucas, asking for documents, the castle began to crumble. Names, license plates, records. The scheme was too big to remain invisible. Lucas tried to smile. He couldn't. Hours later, Miguel sat on the hood of his own car, watching the sky lighten. The day dawned without applause, without an announced victory, without an audience. And yet, it seemed bigger than any trophy he had ever imagined winning. He thought of the lost years. The nights gambled away as if they were disposable chips. The friends who had fallen by the wayside, some by choice, others by consequence. But, for the first time, he didn't wallow in guilt. "Hey," one of the policemen approached. "You could have run away," he said. "Why did you stay?" Miguel hesitated before answering. "Because running was always easy. Stopping was hard." The policeman nodded silently. Days later, the city awoke to headlines. Arrests. Illegal races dismantled. Lucas's name appeared associated with everything that had previously operated in the shadows. Miguel didn't give interviews. He sold the car. He moved to a small town where the roads were quiet and nobody recognized him. He started working in a simple workshop. He repaired engines during the day and, at night, walked without haste, relearning the rhythm of his own life. Sometimes he still felt the impulse, the desire to accelerate, the old call of speed. But now he knew, not every victory makes noise. Not every curve needs to be challenged. And not every story ends when you step on the brake. So begin right there, in the silence.